Right now I'm showing you how to make some bread dough clay. People have been asking about it. Basically what I'm using is some stale bread. It wasn't moldy, it just had a smell to it and wasn't quite edible anymore. I'm removing the crust off of the bread, and I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of white. I'm using Elmer's multi-purpose glue, but you can use any white glue that dries clear. And I'm using 1 teaspoon per slice of bread. And I'm using 2 slices of bread. You see I added the glue. And I'm going to mix it up. It's going to be a little messy at first. That's my cat Handsome's tail in the way. Don't worry, he wasn't harmed in the making of this clay. So here I am, I'm kneading it up. I've speeded up the video because this is sort of a process that not that it takes a long time, but I think you get the idea by looking at it, and I had to cut down 40 minutes of video into a much smaller video so that it would fit here on YouTube. So I'm kneading the dough on my counter, and so far I just put the glue. Now I'm putting a little bit of glycerin in my hand. I put less than a teaspoon, and I'm using it for both slices of bread that I had created, and that just kind of gets it a little bit more porcelain-like, and it gets it off your hands, and it's not as sticky. It's more dough-like, more like clay. I'm kneading it in, squeezing it, distributing it throughout the whole entire clay that I'm creating. And I just want to make sure that it's nice and uniform. You'll feel the clay when it's right. You'll know it. You can just feel it, and it feels a lot like polymer clay or Play-Doh. Even better than Play-Doh, I think. I mean, my personal opinion of it. So I've gone ahead now, and I've created the dough, and I'm just about done making it. And I'm cleaning off my surface. I'm using a regular wet wipe. And I've kind of broke up the clay. Well, I'll put down the clay, I'm sorry. I put it down so that I can clean the counter and my hands. And what I'm doing is I'm taking food coloring. This is food coloring that you buy in your grocery store. The primary colors, the common ones, yellow, green, blue, and red. I'm cutting the dough into 5 different pieces. I know I have 4 different colors, but I'm going to take red and yellow and make orange. You can also do red and blue and make purple. So what I'm doing is I'm taking each one of those little pieces of bread dough clay that I made, and I'm coloring them. I just put a few drops of food coloring into the bread dough. I'm distributing it throughout the clay so that it's uniform in color and not streaky or stripy looking. And then I'm putting it into a Ziploc bag until I'm done doing all of them. You want to keep the unused clay in a Ziploc bag that's airtight so that it doesn't dry out until you use it. Some people wish to keep their clay in the refrigerator. I used my clay over 2 days' time, and I did not. I just left it room temperature on the counter, with the AC running in my house. So here I'm making the yellow, and you'll see, if you notice, even though I sped up the video, that my hands are inundated with ink. It came off quite easy. It was not hard to get off. It didn't stain my hands permanently, just so you know. And here I'm making the green, or the darker green and blue colors. I know one I made is blue and it looks green. It's just darker. My intention was blue though. And now I'm making the green. Okay, so that was the blue one that I created. But yeah, it looks green, just like a really dark green, even when what I made was completed. So I'm going ahead, like I said, I'm mixing up the dough, and I'm almost done with the last piece of clay. And my hands are really, really ucky. Is that a word? Ucky? Okay, here I am showing you the clay, how I have it in the bag, and I have some molds that I made with Amazing Mold Putty from either Buttons or Charms. And I'm taking some of the clay and I'm putting it down into the thing, and I'm making now a heart. It's a beautiful heart with a little filigree design on it. And I I have another little smaller heart that I created as well, and ladybugs and a few other molds that I have had laying around that I created for use with polymer clay. They worked wonderful with this clay, and the detail that it picked up is really, really awesome. I really like it. So I just keep grabbing molds that I have, and I keep using different colors of clay, and I just keep making different heart shapes and whatever I had molds of. So basically what you see me here doing is just taking out some clay, rolling it in my hand, making it malleable once again, and then putting it together. And here I took yellow clay mixed with a little bit of red, which made like a jade kind of looking to me, and I added it to the red, so I have two-sided heart. I have one red side, one yellow side. I'm going to glue them together. See, like, you know, unlike polymer clay, with any like cold porcelain clay or air dry clay, you want to add some glue or some water. Here I added a little bit of Aleene's tacky glue so the two sides would stick together. And I'm going to take an eye pin, one with a head, and I'm going to stick it through the bottom of the heart up through the center. Later, after it's dry, I'll make a loop and make it so it can hang and you can wear it. So here what I'm doing is I'm making some leaves, and I just have a regular like dotting tool, ball stylus. It's one of my like thinner ones of the few that I have. And I'm creating ridges and making a leaf. And I'm going to make 3 little leaves, and then I'm going to make a rose using the red bread dough clay. And the reason I'm doing this is just to show that, you know, without the use of molds, you can use this type of clay for making things by hand. And I really, really love the way that I was able to work with the clay, and the way it just kind of comes together and it takes shape, it takes texture really well. And the tool that I'm using to create the leaves and the ridges on the leaves really worked well. And you see me here making the little veins on the leaf. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put those 3 together. I'm going to add some Aleene's tacky glue to each of the 3 edges. And then I'll add the rose that I'm continuing to make right now. Kind of got a little ahead of myself. But here I am. I'm taking a little ball of red clay. I made a ball, a piece of it, and made a ball. Flattened it out in the palm of my hand, and then I rolled it up. I'm actually going to do this step twice because I made the rose, and then I squished it up and showed you another way that you can make the rose, making the petals more uniform. So here you just take, and each little piece you make a piece, make a little ball, flatten it in your hand. It's okay if the edges are fluted, that makes for a more realistic petal. And then just add it to what you're already creating, and flute the edges a little bit to make it a little bit more realistic, like a rose. So again, I'm making another petal and flattening it in my hand, and I'm going to add it to what I previously have created with the other petals, making the rose. And here's the last petal. And again, adding it to what I previously created. You can make your rose as large or as small as you want. You can use as many petals as you like. I usually suggest anywhere from 5 or 6 petals. Here I take a scissor and I cut off the end and make it flat. I can use the excess to make additional petals, or I may decide that I don't need any more petals, but I added the petal anyways just to show. Made it a little thicker. And now I'm going to crush it up and show you another way that you can make the petals uniform. So you just roll it up, roll your clay together. I'm going to roll it into a snake after you get it all mashed together good. As you use this clay, you'll see it's not, you want to try to use it as quickly as possible. But anyways, I roll it up into a snake, and I take my scissor and I just cut pieces off of it with the scissor. Each one of those pieces is going to become my petals of my rose. I take my first piece, ball it up in the palm of my hand, flatten it out, and roll it up into the center rose, the very first piece of the rose, the center. And I mess with the edges a little bit to give it that little bit more of a realistic fold to it. And there's the center. Now taking another piece, as you can see, I proceed to make my next petal. For you, you might find, depending on your clay, how long you've had it out or how long you've taken to use it, you might want to add some moisture to it, and there's some glue. My dog's banging things in the background. So that your petals will stick together. I didn't really use any glue in between, and I have no problems with the rose that I created. It seems to be very, very sturdy. So I'm continuing to build up my rose, creating petals and adding it all the way around. You want to overlap your petals. You don't want them one on top of the other. It won't look right. So, don't know exactly at that moment what I was doing, but here I'm making the last of the rose petals that I'm adding to my rose. I want to use all the clay that I have out, so I don't have to put any of it back, obviously. I tried to keep my hands within the camera's view so you can see what I was doing. And this seems to be my last petal that I was creating. And I'm rolling around the bottom part of it so that all the petals stick together, and I'm cutting it off with the scissor. And now it's ready to stick on my leaves. So I'm going to take my leaves, and here's where I take a little bit of my Alene tacky glue, add a dot of glue to the larger ends of the petals, and I just add my rose right on top. It laid flat right on top of the leaves since I cut it with the scissor. And there you have it, my little rose and its leaves. And just set that aside to dry. Now here everything is dry, and I'm showing you all the things that I had created, the molds, 2 hearts that I had put together with the eye pin that I put through it, and all the little things that I made, some of the molds, the rose that I made without the mold. I kind of dropped it and show how nice and sturdy it is. It didn't break. It's quite sturdy. And I made some baskets and some other little rose mold things that I had, and I was going to turn them into rings. I have some dragons there. I show some pictures later in the video that you can really see how it takes to detail. It's amazing. I really like the finish. It's nice and smooth. The ones I've made in the past were like so easy to use acrylic paints on and paint. I have not painted these, at least not in this video. Just showing you, but look at the detail. And there's like a tiger and another flower and some stuff. A lot of these molds I make with buttons that I have. So if you have any buttons or charms laying around, you can make your own molds and recreate them. And I'm showing the back of them, showing just how smooth the stuff is. I kind of sped it up so you really don't notice it as well as my little skull. I love my little skull. So yeah, and there's the rose that I created, and you can see the leaf that I made and the fish that I made with the different color fins, and the face, the little nose is different colored. And here is the beautiful detail of my dragon. I love dragons, and I really love that dragon mold that I have. And then the heart that I made, and on the one side it's red with the little filigree pattern as it is in the mold, and the other side I did yellow with little specks of red, which didn't really get picked up too well in the camera, but to me looked like jade.